Beloved listener, let me tell you a secret that is not really a secret at all. Words create worlds. The tongue holds the power of life and wealth, and I discovered that my fortune began not in a bank, but in my mouth. I stood in the valley of lack and lifted my voice. I declared, I am a multimillionaire. My pockets laughed at me, my circumstances mocked me, and yet I spoke. Day after day, in the quiet of my room, in the bustle of the street, I crowned myself with the wealth of my words. I was not waiting for evidence, I was establishing it, for the unseen hears before the seen obeys. I am is the greatest declaration given to humanity. When you say I am poor, you bind yourself to poverty. When you say I am wealthy, you align yourself with infinite supply. I chained my destiny to wealth by fastening it to I am. My speech was no idle chatter, it was law in motion. Do you know what happened? The outer world resisted, bills piled up, doubts crept in, but I had learned a higher principle. Circumstances are shadows, the spoken word is substance. I refused to bow to appearances. I kept declaring. I kept standing in the unseen wealth until the seen began to tremble. Every word was a seed. Every affirmation built a structure in the invisible. And soon doors opened. Opportunities flowed. Men and women, ideas and favor, all came rushing as if my voice had summoned them. And indeed it had, but let me tell you, words alone are not enough if they are loose and undisciplined. I learned to guard my tongue like a treasure chest. No more careless phrases of lack, no more idle complaints. Only wealth words, only life words. The moment I spoke lack, I cancelled abundance. The moment I spoke abundance, I cancelled lack. I chose abundance. With my words, I painted pictures in the mind, and with my feelings, I breathed life into those pictures. Wealth was no longer a dream, it was my reality rehearsed in the invisible. And then came the whispers of inspired action, small instructions, divine nudges. I obeyed them, and they carried me step by step into greater prosperity. And oh, how gratitude sealed the journey. Every declaration ended in thanksgiving. I gave thanks for money not yet in my hand, as though it were already mine. I praised, I rejoiced, I expected. Gratitude proved possession. Expectancy pulled tomorrow into today. Now I stand before you, not as one who stumbled upon riches, but as one who created wealth by speech. My millions were first spoken, then manifested. I am living proof that words are the architects of fortune. So hear me well. Speak life, speak wealth, speak with conviction. Refuse to bow to appearances. Guard your words, feel them deeply, obey the nudges, and give thanks as if it were already done. And soon, you too will say with certainty, I am a multimillionaire because I spoke it into existence. The power of the spoken word is the greatest treasure hidden in plain sight, a force so immense that few dare to grasp it fully. Every word that escapes the lips is more than sound. It is vibration, it is energy, it is law in motion. Words are not idle decorations to conversation. They are seeds cast into the soil of the universe, and each seed contains within it the exact harvest it will bring. When one speaks of lack, they plant lack. When one speaks of wealth, they summon wealth. Life bends to the authority of speech, because the spoken word is the creative command that shapes reality. From the beginning of time, creation itself was spoken into being. Light did not appear because it was imagined silently. It came forth at the command of a word. The same principle that set stars ablaze is alive in every man and woman today. To say, I am strong, is to call strength to attention. To declare, I am weak, is to summon weakness. Words do not float into nothingness. They find form, they build substance, they attach themselves to circumstance. The world one inhabits is but the echo of words spoken yesterday, and the world that will come tomorrow is already being built by the words spoken today. Consider how easily the tongue can deceive a person into ruin. A casual word of fear, a careless word of doubt, an idle complaint. They may seem harmless, but the law of words does not rest. It obeys every utterance with impartiality. Just as gravity does not choose who it will favor, so the creative power of speech does not discriminate between blessing and curse. It simply produces. That is why discipline of the tongue is discipline of destiny. He who governs his words governs his future. She who aligns her speech with abundance aligns her life with abundance. When the lips repeat affirmations of truth, the invisible world stirs. Opportunities move into position. Doors begin to open. People appear, as if summoned by unseen hands. And yet, to the untrained eye, it may seem like coincidence, chance, or luck. But nothing is luck, it is law. The word goes forth, and law responds. The word calls, and reality answers. The power of the spoken word is not about loudness of voice, but about the certainty of spirit. A whisper of conviction carries more weight than a shout of doubt. The words we speak about ourselves become the mirrors in which life reflects back to us. Say, I never succeed, and failure becomes a faithful shadow. Say, I always rise, and victory hunts you down. The universe is impartial. It does not question your choice, it only manifests it. Speech is choice made audible. Every I am spoken is a decree. Every declaration a contract written in the unseen and signed in the seen. To use the word with wisdom is to wield the greatest tool ever given to humanity, the power to shape, to command, to create. Identity through I am is the cornerstone of all creation, the golden key to unlocking destiny. Whatever follows I am does not linger as a mere thought. It becomes a claim, a decree, a seal upon the soul that the universe itself recognizes and obeys. The words I am carry the full authority of being, for they declare the essence of who you are in the unseen before it takes form in the seen. To say, I am blessed, is to join hands with blessing. To say, I am cursed, is to bind yourself to the shadow. Identity is not crafted by circumstance, but by confession, and every utterance of I am is a brushstroke upon the canvas of life. When one says, I am poor, they are not describing a condition, they are commanding it. The law of identity does not argue, it complies. The universe does not laugh at the absurdity of a wealthy man calling himself poor. It simply answers, so be it. And when a poor man dares to speak, I am rich, though his pockets are empty, though his hands tremble, though the world mocks him, he has set the wheels of wealth in motion, because identity precedes possession. You cannot possess what you do not first claim as your own. The phrase I am is not weak, it is divine. It is the voice of power announcing itself. Every being carries it within, yet few recognize its authority. Many squander it on trivial complaints, attaching their essence to sickness, failure, fear, or limitation. They say, I am tired, I am unlucky, I am not enough, and each word digs a deeper trench for the soul. Yet the one who guards the tongue and shapes I am, with wisdom rises like an eagle, for they understand that identity creates experience. It is not enough to think wealth, one must speak it. It is not enough to dream of strength, one must declare it. Speech solidifies identity. Thoughts may waver and drift like clouds, but words are lightning, charged, sharp, undeniable. When you attach greatness to I am, greatness attaches itself to you. When you attach peace to I am, storms dissolve and calm floods your path. You do not become wealthy, strong, or wise by striving, but by declaring the truth of your being until the outer world bows to the inner claim. Every master of destiny has understood this. They spoke their future into their present by fastening their soul to an identity greater than the evidence before them. I am whole, said the sick. I am free, said the captive. I am victorious, said the outnumbered, and life, unable to resist the authority of identity, reshaped itself in obedience, for to declare I am is to call forth the infinite power of being, and to shape yourself not as the world names you, but as heaven itself has ordained you. The law of assumption is the invisible hand that molds reality into shape, a principle so simple that many overlook it, and yet so powerful that it governs every outcome of life. To assume is to take possession in consciousness before it is seen in the physical world. It is to dress the unseen with certainty and to walk as though the unseen were already substance. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not idle daydreaming. It is the bold act of claiming the invisible as the inevitable. When one assumes wealth, wealth is summoned. When one assumes health, health quickens the body. Life answers to the posture of the soul, and assumption is the posture that bends reality. Every achievement begins with assumption. A man who succeeds does not wait for success to prove itself. He assumes success and lives as though it were his portion. A woman who overcomes does not wait for circumstances to loosen their grip. She assumes victory and stands tall even in the midst of chains. The law is impartial. It makes no distinction between the just and unjust, believer or skeptic. Whoever assumes with conviction sets the law in motion, and reality adjusts itself to fit the image carried within. Assumption is the inner decree that precedes the outer demonstration. To understand assumption is to grasp that life is a mirror, reflecting not what we plead for but what we inwardly claim. Pleas born of desperation often echo back with silence, for they confess lack rather than possession. But assumption speaks from authority. It says, I already have it. It lives, acts, and speaks from the end, not toward it. It does not beg, it declares. It does not hope, it knows. The one who assumes has already crossed the finish line in consciousness, and the world must rush to arrange itself accordingly. Doubt cannot coexist with assumption. The two are enemies. Doubt stands at the door, demanding evidence, while assumption enters boldly, demanding manifestation. To assume is to turn away from appearances, to close the eyes of the flesh and open the eyes of faith. When you walk in assumption, the world may laugh, circumstances may sneer, and logic may mock, but the law cannot be mocked. Whatever is claimed inwardly will clothe itself outwardly in due time. Assumption requires imagination, for the inner world must first be painted in color and detail, but imagination without assumption remains a shadow. It is the act of taking that image, wrapping it in certainty, and saying, this is mine, this is me, this is now, that births results. Feel it, live it, walk in it, and the unseen must give way to the seen. Life cannot deny the one who assumes, for the law was written into the foundation of creation itself. So powerful is assumption that even without conscious awareness, it governs lives. Those who assume failure, though they never admit it aloud, see failure shadow every step. Those who assume rejection experience it again and again. Yet the moment assumption shifts, destiny shifts. To assume differently is to choose differently, and to choose differently is to live differently. The law waits only for the command of the heart. Whoever dares to assume wealth, joy, peace, and freedom, though all evidence declares the opposite, has already begun to live in the reality of those things, and the universe cannot resist delivering them in full measure. The invisible blueprint is the hidden architecture of life, the unseen pattern that shapes the visible world long before it is revealed. Nothing appears by accident. Nothing comes forth without first being fashioned in silence. Every building begins with a plan drawn on paper, but every destiny begins with a plan drawn in the spirit. Words, thoughts, and feelings are the architects, and they work tirelessly to sketch, frame, and construct the blueprint of experience. What you see with your eyes is only the shadow of what has already been established in the invisible realm. To change the outer world, you must first alter the blueprint that designs it. When I first understood this truth, I realized that my life had never been random. Every lack I endured, every breakthrough I experienced, was built first in the unseen by the words I spoke and the convictions I carried. The invisible blueprint is impartial. It does not ask whether the design you hold is wise or foolish, abundant or impoverished. It simply builds. If you continually declare, "I can't, I won't, I never," then your blueprint draws walls of limitation around you. But if you dare to say, "I am, I can, I will," the blueprint extends its reach and sketches pathways into greater territory. The invisible does not argue with you, it obeys you. The reason so many struggle is not because opportunity has abandoned them, but because their blueprint was never adjusted. They attempt to renovate the outer world without redrawing the inner plan. It is like trying to change a building by painting its walls while ignoring the foundation. The invisible blueprint must shift first, and once it does, the outer conditions cannot resist falling in line. Every affirmation, every image of success held in the heart, every word charged with conviction, these are the lines and curves of your eternal design. The invisible blueprint works with precision. It gathers people, circumstances, and opportunities that match its design. You may think an introduction was chance, that a door opened by luck, but the truth is that the blueprint you carried summoned it all. It is the magnet, the silent command, the unseen order that directs the visible. Those who understand this truth stop blaming the world and begin building within. They cease waiting for conditions to change and start speaking and imagining the conditions they desire. This blueprint is alive. It responds not only to words, but to feeling. Words spoken without belief sketch faint outlines, easily erased by fear. But words clothed with emotion etch deep lines that cannot be undone. That is why it is not enough to recite abundance while feeling poverty, or to declare health while imagining sickness. The invisible blueprint honors the strongest imprint, whichever thought or feeling is most alive within you. Therefore, the wise guard their speech, their imagination, their emotions, knowing that every moment they are drafting tomorrow's reality. What an extraordinary gift this is, that the unseen bends to us, that the eternal design is not fixed but responsive. No one is trapped by fate. They are only trapped by their own blueprint. And the moment they dare to speak differently, to feel differently, to imagine differently, the blueprint redraws itself. And once it is redrawn, the world itself must follow. The invisible blueprint is the promise that nothing is final, nothing is permanent, except that which you continue to design in the silence of your own being. Faith against circumstances is the unwavering torch that lights the path when every outward condition screams defeat. It is the refusal to bow before appearances, the holy defiance that says, though it looks impossible, it is already mine. Circumstances are deceptive. They parade themselves as permanent. They shout loudly as though they hold the final word, but they are nothing more than shadows cast by yesterday's thoughts and spoken words. They change, they dissolve, they rearrange themselves at the command of faith. To live by circumstances is to live as a slave to illusion, but to live by faith is to live as master of destiny. When I spoke abundance into my life, the evidence mocked me. My bank account was empty, bills piled upon my table, and yet I declared, I am a multimillionaire. The world laughed at such audacity, but faith is not concerned with the laughter of men. Faith is loyal only to truth, and truth says that the inner word precedes the outer manifestation. Every time I chose to hold faith above appearance, I was chiseling away at the prison of lack. The bars of limitation bent beneath the pressure of belief, until they snapped and gave way to freedom. Faith does not ignore circumstances. It simply refuses to be ruled by them. It looks directly at the storm and says, "Peace, be still." It gazes at emptiness and proclaims, "This is the ground of overflow." Faith sees beyond the immediate. It peers into the eternal. Where the natural eye sees nothing, faith sees a harvest ready to burst forth. This is why those who cling to circumstances remain bound, while those who cling to faith rise above. Understand this: circumstances are not creators, they are creations. They are the fruit, not the seed. To let them dictate your speech is to give power to a result rather than to the law that produced it. But faith aligns with the seed, the spoken word, the invisible law, and demands that the fruit change to match the new declaration. Faith is the higher authority. Circumstances must bow to it, for they cannot resist the command of spirit clothed in conviction. There were days when doubt crept in, whispering, "Look around you, nothing has changed." But I learned to silence that voice with a greater voice. I declared, "I walk by faith, not by sight. I live by truth, not by shadows. What I speak shall be, and no appearance can overturn it." Each declaration fortified my faith until doubt lost its grip and my heart stood firm like a mountain. Faith is not passive waiting. It is active possession. It claims the victory before the battle is won. It sings the song of triumph while the walls of opposition still stand. It rejoices in abundance while the wallet is thin. This posture confuses circumstances, for they are used to being obeyed. But when confronted with unwavering faith, they crumble and reshape themselves. Faith speaks, acts, and feels as though the promise were already fulfilled, and the world has no choice but to conform. So let every circumstance rise up against you. Let lack sneer, let sickness roar, let fear attempt its threats. Stand firm and declare, "I am greater than this. I am already victorious. I am what I speak." When faith holds steady, circumstances become clay, molded by the hand of your conviction. In time, the very conditions that opposed you will testify to your triumph. For faith is the power that outlasts, outshines, and overturns every appearance. Guarding the tongue is the safeguard of destiny, for the tongue is the rudder of life. It may appear small, a mere instrument of speech, yet it steers the course of abundance or lack, joy or sorrow, victory or defeat. Every careless word is like a spark, and sparks can burn down entire forests of possibility. Many speak themselves into poverty without realizing it, declaring daily, "I can't afford this, I'll never have enough, life is hard." And though they think these words harmless, the law of speech does not recognize humor or habit. It only recognizes command. The universe records every utterance, and the tongue, unguarded, can sabotage the very blessings that have already been set in motion. I learned this lesson through hardship, when I spoke against my own good without meaning to. In moments of frustration, I said words of lack, words of failure, words of despair. Each word seemed to vanish into the air, yet soon enough, I began to walk in the very shadows I had spoken. It was then that I realized the tongue does not play, it creates. Once I awakened to this truth, I made a vow to guard my mouth as one guards a treasure chest. I chose to speak only that which built, blessed, and beautified my path, for I understood that my tongue was the brush painting the canvas of my tomorrow. Guarding the tongue requires vigilance, for habits of negative speech run deep. How often do people say, "This always happens to me," or "I am so unlucky," without pausing to consider that they are issuing decrees? Each phrase is a seed, and the soil of life is fertile. It grows whatever is planted. To say, "I am tired," again and again is to bind oneself to weariness. To say, "I am strong," even in weakness, is to summon strength from the unseen. The tongue does not merely report reality, it shapes it. That is why silence is often safer than speech, for silence harms nothing, but rash words can build walls one must later tear down. Guarding the tongue is not about fear, but about discipline and wisdom. It is knowing that words are powerful tools, not toys. Just as a craftsman handles his tools with care, so must we handle the tool of speech with precision. This does not mean one never acknowledges a challenge, but that one refuses to glorify it with constant declaration. Instead of saying, "I am drowning in debt," the guarded tongue says, "I am rising into abundance." Instead of declaring, "I am sick," it says, "I am healing, I am whole." The tongue shifts the energy, and the shift in energy summons new outcomes. There is strength in restraint. A guarded tongue refuses to complain, refuses to gossip, refuses to spread fear. It becomes an instrument of blessing, speaking words that lift, encourage, and inspire. With each guarded phrase, the future is secured. With each chosen declaration, wealth, peace, and joy are invited closer. The guarded tongue not only protects one's own destiny, but becomes a fountain of life for others, for words spoken to another carry the same creative weight. To say to someone, "You are capable, you are worthy, you are loved," is to plant seeds in their blueprint, seeds that may blossom into miracles. Guarding the tongue is the art of mastery. The one who conquers their speech conquers their life. For if you can command your words, you can command your world. Each sentence becomes a decree of power. Each declaration, a step toward destiny fulfilled. And so the wise guard their tongue as the most precious of treasures, for in it lies the power to destroy or to create, to diminish or to multiply, to curse or to bless. To guard, it is to guard your very life. Visualization and feeling are the twin engines of creation, the inner fire that gives life to the spoken word. Words without vision are like seeds cast upon stone. They hold power, but they lack the soil in which to grow. Vision is that soil. It is the unseen picture drawn upon the canvas of imagination, the vivid image of what already exists in the realm of spirit. When the mind beholds a clear picture and the heart embraces it with feeling, the universe cannot help but answer. For thought is form, and feeling is fuel. Together, they form the magnet that draws the invisible into manifestation. When I declared wealth, I did not simply repeat empty phrases. I closed my eyes and saw myself walking in the life I had spoken. I saw the keys of homes resting in my hands. I saw accounts overflowing. I saw myself clothed in abundance. But seeing alone was not enough. I felt it. I let joy flood me as though the wealth were already mine. I walked with the dignity of one who lacked nothing. I trained my heart to rejoice in what my eyes could not yet behold. This union of vision and feeling created an atmosphere so powerful that reality itself began to bend toward it. Many speak affirmations but fail to unite them with imagination. They speak, "I am prosperous," while inwardly seeing lack, while inwardly feeling doubt. This is divided power, and a divided power produces delayed or distorted results. But when word, vision, and feeling harmonize, creation is inevitable. It is as though heaven itself rushes to confirm the agreement. For imagination is the womb of manifestation, and feeling is the heartbeat that brings the child to life. Visualization is not idle daydreaming. It is disciplined creation. It is choosing, again and again, to picture the highest outcome rather than the darkest fear. It is rehearsing success in the unseen until the seen must conform. And feeling is not pretending, it is embodying. It is lifting your soul into the vibration of gratitude, joy, confidence, and certainty. These feelings are not merely emotions. They are frequencies that call forth matching realities. To feel wealth is to live in the frequency of wealth, and wealth, by law, must appear. I remember days when the outer world opposed me, when lack stared me in the face. Yet in the stillness, I built another world within. I visualized myself free, victorious, radiant. I felt the relief, the thrill, the celebration as though it were already done. And each time I did, I strengthened the invisible blueprint. Slowly but surely, the outer world began to take shape around my inner vision. What was once only a picture became experience. What was once only a feeling became fact. Those who master visualization and feeling no longer live as victims of chance. They walk as creators, knowing that life does not happen to them, but through them. They know that to picture abundance and to feel its joy is to guarantee its arrival. They understand that vision and feeling are more real than circumstance, for circumstances shift, but the inner image, once established, is eternal until fulfilled. So, let your words be clothed with vision, let your vision be saturated with feeling, and let your feeling radiate with gratitude. This is the sacred formula by which the unseen is made seen, by which dreams step into daylight. He who can see it and feel it, though none else believe, will surely live it, for visualization and feeling are the very heartbeat of manifestation. Obedience to inspired action is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the divine whisper that carries you from vision into fulfillment. Many speak the word, many visualize, many feel with intensity, yet they stop short when the call to act arises. They dismiss the small nudges, the inner promptings, the sudden ideas that flash like lightning across the mind. But these are not accidents. They are the instructions of the infinite, the exact steps that lead to the manifestation already waiting in the unseen. To ignore them is to delay destiny, but to obey them is to unlock the treasure house of miracles. When I spoke wealth into existence, I was not merely sitting idle, waiting for gold to fall from the heavens. I listened. I paid attention to the quiet guidance that came as a thought, a dream, or an urge so subtle it could have been missed. Sometimes it was an idea to call someone, sometimes to step into a room I had never considered, sometimes to create, to offer, to give. Each act seemed small, almost insignificant, but obedience to those divine impulses created a chain of events that no human mind could have orchestrated. One door led to another, one connection to the next, until I stood in the very reality I had envisioned. Inspired action is unlike forced effort. Forced effort strains, struggles, and resists, but inspired action flows with grace. It carries with it a sense of knowing, a quiet certainty, even when the outcome is unseen. You may not understand the full picture, yet the act feels alive, urgent, radiant with purpose. That is the difference. It is not born of fear or desperation, but of faith. It is the echo of your own declaration, guiding you toward its fulfillment. Those who fail to act upon inspiration often find themselves circling the same mountain, repeating affirmations yet seeing no change. The word has been spoken, the vision formed, the feeling embraced, but without obedience, the seed remains in the soil. Inspired action is the watering, the tending, the alignment that draws the unseen into the seen. Spirit will not move your feet for you, it will only guide them. Your role is to listen and obey, even when the step seems small, even when logic protests. There were times when the actions I was prompted to take made no sense to reason. Why give when I barely had enough? Why step into ventures that seemed uncertain? Why trust doors that appeared fragile? And yet, every time I obeyed, unseen forces aligned. Provision came from unexpected places. Opportunities opened as though the world itself had been waiting for my yes. Obedience proved to be the golden key, unlocking blessings that no effort alone could have secured. The law of life is not idle wishing, it is active partnership with the infinite. To speak the word is to plant the seed, but to obey the inner guidance is to walk into the harvest. Action, when born of inspiration, is not toil but joy. It lifts the soul, it energizes the body, It confirms the truth already spoken. Each act becomes a testimony that the word is alive, that heaven and earth are conspiring in your favor. So do not harden your heart when inspiration comes. Do not dismiss the quiet whisper as imagination, for imagination is the very language of spirit.